Let's go.
All I do is work harder. All I do is work harder, yeah. Plus I love it smarter. To take myself farther, yeah. And my marching orders. Reach my goal. Order, try and take off. Never stop flying. Keep going, never retire.
Hey guys, Todd Fossey here. I am the founder and chief instructor at Integrative Defense Strategies, also known as IDS. Today, we're drawing some brief comparisons between drilling half speed with half resistance versus drilling full speed with full resistance and defending impact weapon attacks while armed with a handgun. Now, these are not scenarios. They're what we call 3D threat recognition drills. While there may be similar elements to a scenario, they're distinctly different. Something we can get into another time. This is Officer Jacob Gribble. Jake has been my primary training partner for about 9 years. Jake is a retired Marine Infantry Sergeant and recently resigned his position as a SWAT team leader for personal reasons. He knows his shit and he keeps me on my toes. He's also a senior instructor here at IDS. I want you guys to know this is not going to be a detailed tutorial on impact weapon defense for citizen defenders. That would take way too long. Instead, this is an opportunity to point out some principles and differences in training full goes versus half goes. Let's break these half go iterations down. The first two things I'm working on are timing and management of distance. To put it simply, if I'm outside of the range of the impact weapon, that's where I want to stay, and present my weapon if necessary. If I'm within range of the impact weapon, I want to cover and crash inside to control the weapon and the weapon arm and fight my way to my weapon if necessary and tactically advantageous. This is a lot easier said than done. In this case, I'm within range, so I crash inside. Typically, I prefer to cover my head, but there wasn't time, so I crashed with an arm stop or a spear position, then transitioned to an overhook on the weapon arm and framed briefly on his head and whizzer for the takeaway. In this next rep, Jake comes at me with a two-handed baseball bat swing. I intercept the lead arm to slow the speed of the swing, then transition into what we call a 2-4-1 position. This allows me to control both of his arms with just one of mine. In this particular rep, I rehearse transitioning to my weapon. Since the aggressor has shown lethal intent, I could give commands to drop the stick, muzzle strike, or discharge my weapon, depending on what the circumstances call for. In the third half-speed repetition, the entry is similar to the first one, only in this case I notice Jake's posture is compromised, and I feel him push into me, so I dump him from a neck pike position as I take the stick away and transition to my weapon. I would probably use my weapon as a deterrent here as I give commands. When possible, I favor putting my attacker on the ground while I stay on my feet. I like the mobility and tactical advantage of the high ground, and while I'm very comfortable down there, there's a lot that can go wrong in circumstances like this. If I wanted to, I could have stylized these and dressed these up to put on a show, but that's not what we do at IDS. We're very no-nonsense here, and the last time I checked, we don't get style points when someone's trying to kill us. So now let's take a look at some of the full goes at full speed and full resistance. Not as clean, is it? Again, timing and distance management is everything here. These attacks happen rapidly and violently, and oftentimes when and how we least expect it. So we do what we can to keep things simple with the largest possible margin for error. And if I don't drill at full speed from time to time, I'll never have the necessary exposure to understand just how fast these attacks occur or the speed of the stick, only setting myself up for a false sense of confidence and a potentially catastrophic outcome. Let's take a look at it again. You can see here I misjudged the angle of the attack and eat the shot in my side, but I'm in a position to keep myself conscious and stay in the fight as I work to a Russian tie position. Not ideal, but I'll take what I can get. From here, I decide to break range and transition to my handgun as I give commands. Jake decides to run away as a decision-making element for me. Because of this, I choose not to discharge my weapon. If someone else was reasonably in danger here, that decision might be different. In the next iteration, Jake switches the attack to his left hand. I realize I'm outside of the range of his weapon, so I make distance and present my weapon, activating my weapon-mounted light as a deterrent, an additional force multiplier. 800 lumens is a bitch to deal with, even in a well-illuminated environment, offering me some concealment and tactical advantage. On a side note, while most violent crimes happen during hours of darkness, they don't usually happen in the dark. They happen in well-illuminated, transitional spaces. It's extremely rare for armed citizen defenders to use a weapon-mounted light and discharge their weapon at the same time in low-light, no-light environments. Military, yes. Law enforcement, yes. Security, yes. Citizen defenders, no. It's extremely rare. Let's take a look at another iteration here. Again, I misjudged the angle of the attack, and again, the hand speed and the speed of the attack is so fast that I simply do the best I can to mitigate probabilities and minimize damage to my head and neck. I missed the first attempt to control the weapon arm, but I stay close as Jake attempts to create distance. I'm able to get a 2-on-1 on Jake's weapon arm and decide to break range and use my distance weapon as a deterrent as I give commands and activate my weapon-mounted light. It wasn't pretty, but it worked out because I utilized the 4 principles of winning the fight. 1. Timing. My timing wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. 2. Distance management. Controlled the distance at every stage of the fight. 3. Transitions. Transitioning from one position and stage of the fight to another. 4. Dominant angles, working to an angle or position of tactical advantage whenever possible. If you guys found this breakdown to be helpful, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps this channel and the Citizen Defender movement. And if you're interested in innovative training you can do anywhere, please check out idscitizendefender.com. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Let's go.